So let's talk about heaven on earth. So we did the Ice Age, and now what's happening is that the planet, it's warming up, and it allows for agriculture, and it allows for settlements. Okay, so now we will discuss today what happens during this time as the population grows and as we settle down to form cities. Okay, so let's review what we learned last class, because in this class, we don't learn facts or places. We learn about ideas and concepts. So if you want to understand human history, you need to internalize certain concepts. So in history class, in our culture, you're taught certain myths about who we are, okay? So I'm going to go over some of these myths and show you they're wrong, explain why we have these myths, okay? So the first myth is that we are materialistic. We like money, sex, and power. Okay? The truth of the matter is that throughout most of human history, we had three goals or three concerns. The first is that we have a religious impulse, and we want to express this religion through art, through music, through dance. And what I mean by religion, I mean that we have three questions in our heads. The first question is, where do we come from? Second question is, why are we here? And the third question is, where are we going? That's why we had religion, to answer these three questions. Okay? And that's why we still have religion today. Second thing about us is that we're all diverse and we want to differentiate ourselves. We want to stand out. And the last thing is we are curious and we want to explore. That's fundamentally who we are. Then the question then is, why are we telling you that we're materialistic? And the answer is, it's better to control you, okay? So in a society, there's a hierarchy, and the people in charge, they want you to work hard. They want you to be obedient. But if you believe that you want to explore, then you're not going to be obedient enough, okay? Does that make sense? Okay, second myth is, and this is going to be hard for you to understand, what you're taught is that the nuclear family, father, mother, children, that's the most natural human unit. And it's not true. Actually, if you look at most ancient societies, the most natural organization is that women are usually in control. Why? Because women have complete autonomy over their bodies. So they can choose who to have sex with. And that's where the power comes from. They control access to sex, which gives men pleasure. And with this power, they often choose to sleep with as many men as possible. Okay? And there are three reasons why they choose this strategy. The first is, it's fun, okay? It gives them pleasure to have sex with as many men as possible. That's number one. Number two is, women are really good at negotiating politics, and they use sex as a political strategy. So if two guys are fighting each other, she has sex with both, and then voila, they're best friends now, okay? So women are very good at managing emotions through sex, okay? And then number three is the most important. If you're a woman, you want to make sure that all your children grow up successfully. They don't die, okay? And they're happy and they're healthy. So from your perspective, it's in your advantage to hide paternity, to hide the fact who the father is. Why? Because now all the men in the village, in the community, are responsible for raising a child. Because no one knows who the real father is, so everyone assumes that I could be the father. Okay? And this is historically how societies are usually organized, with a woman in charge. And as such, societies tend to be very egalitarian, because women don't really care about status and power. They care about harmony and balance. And the question then is, why did we change? And there's actually a very simple reason. The simple explanation is in order to produce more children. Because if you're a woman, you don't want to have too many children. You want to make sure that all your children have access to resources, but you also want to stay healthy, right? If you have too many children, it's possible you could die in childbirth. It's also possible that your children die in childbirth as well. So women have always practiced population control. But when we switch to a patriarchy, now we can have as many children as possible, okay? Because now women are basically become slaves, and their main duty is to have as many children as possible. And that's why after the transition from matriarchy to patriarchy, a lot of women start to die, okay? So that's number 2. Number 3 is humans believe in survival of the fittest. And that's not true. Historically, if you look at how societies are organized, we tend to be compassionate. We look after the ill. We look after the elderly. We look after the weak. Okay, that's who we are. We have empathy. We care about other people. So why do we believe in survival of the fittest? It's to create fear and anxiety. Okay, if you have fear and anxiety, you work harder, but also it's easier to control you. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, all right, let's continue. Number 4. Humans have gotten smarter over the centuries. And one thing that you will learn in this class is that's not true. Humans have always been smart, but we've expressed our intelligence in different ways. So primitive cultures, they express themselves through art. They had better memories, they were more sensitive, and they were more resilient than we are. So why are we taught that we're smarter? The answer is confirmation bias, because everyone likes to believe that we're smarter than the people who came before us, okay? So now let me give you an example of how smart they were. So let's just say that you have a boat and you want to navigate the Pacific, okay? That's very hard to do, and you usually need a computer. Why? Because there's so much information that you need to process in order to navigate the ocean. Okay, so let's go over some of the information. All right, so these are the Polynesian people. What's amazing about them is they settled the entire Pacific. Wherever there's an island, they had a settlement. And this is a testament to our desire to explore the world, okay? What is fascinating is how they did this, because if I were to put you in a boat in the Pacific, you'll probably die, okay? And that's true for most people. So the question then is, how do they navigate the Pacific? Well, what they did was this. They built boats that allow them to navigate the Pacific. But as you can see, these are not large boats, okay? So they had to get to an island fairly quickly. So what they needed to do was read the stars. So in their heads, they were able to map out the stars, and from the stars, figure out exactly where they were. They also had to memorize oceanic currents, okay? How the oceans were moving in order to better navigate the ocean. Also, every island has its own distinct oceanic ecosystem, okay? So there's so much information that they have to take in. They have to look at the wind. They have to look at the oceanic currents. They have to look at the stars. And that's why we have computers to do this for us today. But back then, they didn't have computers. So they had to do this all in their heads, okay? And they had some maps that helped them, okay? So this is a map of the stars, and this is a map of the oceanic currents. But they were all doing this in their head. And what's really amazing is while they were out in sea, they couldn't sleep. Okay? They had to keep track of all this information to know exactly where they were. If they fell asleep, the navigator fell asleep, they got lost, and then they died. Okay? That's the power of the human imagination. Okay, last myth. We evolved from apes. And the truth is that we are imaginative and we can choose our own evolution. Okay? So you're taught in school about the theory of evolution, how we evolved from apes. And maybe our bodies evolved from apes, but our minds did not. Our minds come from somewhere else. Okay? So why are you taught we evolved from apes? It's to justify the power hierarchy, okay? Right? The people in charge are just stronger and better and more fit than we are. All right. So having reviewed last class, let's now talk about the religious imagination, okay? So this is the pyramids. It was built 2400 BCE, and today it's the same pyramids. This is one of the most, yes? Yeah, go ahead.
You said that the previous people are like smarter than today's because they can navigate the Pacific like just with the boat and and don't sleep. But nowadays we use computer, right? But I think that nowadays we use computer is not because that we cannot navigate the ocean just by a boat and human. Is because this matter is we could get more precise and accurate information.
Okay, that's not true, okay? If I put you on a civil computer, you would die. It's that simple, okay? The computer's not gonna help you navigate the ocean, okay? All right, so these are the pyramids, okay? And there's a great mystery as to how these pyramids were built. And you might have on the internet heard silly explanations like aliens came and built the pyramids, okay? Or maybe the lost civilization of Atlantis gave the technology to the Egyptians to build the pyramids. And this is an example of confirmation bias. We think that we're smart and everyone before was stupid, okay? And what you'll learn in this class is that these people had an imagination that allowed them to build the pyramids. Okay, so I'm going to show you how they built the pyramids. All right, so as you can see, the pyramids are extremely complex structures, okay? And first of all, there's debate as to what the pyramid is. What are you taught in school what the pyramids are? What is it? Come on, you guys are taught all this in school, right? The pyramid is what? It's a tomb, right? Okay, guys, it's not a tomb. Okay, it looks like a tomb, but it's not a tomb. It's a temple, right? Okay, so how do they build the pyramids? So what happened was that they didn't have blueprints, they didn't have computers, but they had the imagination. So they could see the building of the pyramid in their heads. And what they did was they actually built it from the inside out. Okay? All right? So again, it's hard for us to imagine that they would do this because it's like, wait, you don't have a pen, so you couldn't write it down. You don't have a computer, so you can process all the information. They did it all in their heads. And that's the power of the human imagination. Okay? All right. And as you can see, it was a massive undertaking, huge organization. It took about 20 years and lots of people. And then the question then is, how were they able to organize in such a manner? And the answer again is empathy, the imagination. Someone had a vision, and this vision was so compelling that everyone knew exactly what part to play. Okay? Also, what's really important is that in school, you're taught that the pyramids were built because the pharaoh is God, and there's a tomb for the pharaoh, okay? That's really insulting to the Egyptian people. Like all cultures, the pharaoh wanted what's best for his people, okay? So the pharaoh would, in his lifetime, undertake a lot of public works projects, okay, including canals. Okay, so the pyramids were just a public works project, a temple. What's amazing about the pyramids is that we could not do the pyramids today, okay? Back to your point, we have computers. Guess what? We have all these machines, okay? And guess what? We cannot build the pyramids. Why? Well, because the way we work is different from the way they worked before. Let's go over the differences, okay? Ancient times, people had religious devotion. When they worked on a project like the temple, like the pyramids or whatever, the point was to bring heaven to earth, to bring God to earth, to create eternal peace. They felt that my dedication, my sacrifice would make my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren all more prosperous, okay? That's why they worked so hard. Today, it's to make more money, okay? Second thing, vision. People back then had bigger brains, okay? Not bigger brains, but like stronger imagination. So in their heads, they were able to see the entire vision in their heads. And this vision was able to pass on to other people as well. It was almost like they had telepathy. It was almost like they could see the same thing, okay? The structure of the pyramid was designed in a way that people saw the same image and they worked towards that image. Today, we focus on something called top-down process-oriented management, okay? The idea here is, rather than work together, you just go and work a particular part. And then, once you do that part, you go away, okay? So an example is maybe art class. Now, I'm not sure if you take art class, but you guys know, like, to produce a great piece of art, you stay in a room and you work really hard at it, okay? But in school, what do? Well, first thing we do is make you write a plan, right? And if you do the plan well, I give you 10%. Then after you do the plan, what do? You write the outline. Then you do a draft. Then you do an iteration, okay? You understand? We break it down into a process. And you think that this would lead to better results. It actually leads to worse results, okay? Because you're no longer focused on the vision, you just focus on the process. And that's why today, everything we do sucks, okay? I can give you the greatest computers in the world, and you really couldn't do the pyramids, okay? I can give you the best machines, the best computers, it wouldn't matter because you lack that vision. The last thing, and this is the most important, is when you have vision, when you have religious purpose, everything you do is careful, okay? You put your best effort into doing it because you're trying to create eternity. Today, you try to do the least amount of work for the most amount of pay, right? So the idea today is to do it as fast as possible, as cheap as possible to maintain a budget. Okay? So do you understand? It's not about how smart you are, it's about your purpose in working. It's about how you work. And that's why everything we do today is just crappy. Okay? All right. Let's go over some examples of tremendous human achievement. Okay? This is the Hagia Sophia. And this was built in 532 in Constantinople. It's still in Istanbul. You can actually take a plane, get on a plane, and fly, and it's still there, guys. Okay? This is a modern picture. So you can see the amount of attention and care put into architecture back then. Okay? Because it's about bringing heaven to earth, creating heaven on earth. This, and you can see inside how beautiful it is. Okay? And so every inch, every piece of the church is just beautifully constructed. Everyone who worked on it was working with the same vision and working with the same dedication. This is the Aachen Cathedral built in 1790, okay? And guys, this is what it looks like today. No different from what it looked like when it was first built. And guys, no one said this was built by aliens, okay? No one said this was built by the Atlanteans. So the idea that the Egyptians couldn't build the pyramids by themselves and had to rely on aliens, that's just a racist comment, okay? Also, Charlemagne, the first Roman emperor, the first Holy Roman Emperor, he's buried inside this cathedral, but no one's saying this is a tomb, okay? We all know it's a church. So the pyramids are a church, a temple to their gods. And once you understand that, then we can better understand how they built the pyramids, okay? Does that make sense?